What does it mean to take the knee? Let's discuss some home truths. Racism isn't a comfortable conversation. But racism hasn't gone away. Racism is a real problem. It's societal. It's blatant prejudice. It's more than just social media abuse. It's certainly bigger than football. And this here is much more than just a gesture. It's about recognising reality and demanding change. It's a symbol of pride in identity, pride in using our platforms to change. That's what it means for players to take the knee. So if you're a supporter, support this.
A very good afternoon. Welcome along to Matchday Live. My name is Kel Spellman and we are live from the Etihad Stadium as Manchester City enjoyed a rare 6-day break and are hoping to put that 1-0 defeat at Anfield right as we take on Brighton here at the Etihad Stadium. The boys in blue have arrived. They are off the coach. We can see Rodri there and Ruben Diaz. Aymeric Laporte as well. Will we be seeing them in the starting 11? Well, you can see there. We'll be finding out in just over a minute's time. The omens look good for Manchester City today. They have won 9 of their last 10 Premier League meetings with Brighton, with the exception being a 3-2 away loss in May 2021. For Brighton, however, not so much. They have never won an away league game against Manchester City. They've lost 10 of their 12 visits, including each of the last 8 by an aggregate score of, get on this, 21-2. So I think goals could be on the agenda today. I'm sure that man will be licking his lips as well at the thought of that if he makes the starting 11, which we'll be finding out in just a moment's time. Not before, though, I've introduced you to our incredible lineup here in the Matchday Live studio. I mean, a back three, I think that would Haaland would struggle to get past, to be honest with you. Steve Howey, Andy Morrison and Joleon Lescott, what an absolute pleasure. Joleon, you've just come back from South Africa.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was nice. Similar weather to here.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it was all going up. We was like, one day we was like hoodies wrapped up. The next day we thought it was going to be the same. We've gone out in that gear and then the sun came out. So it was like, where's the shorts at? It's wild. It's wild out there.
Hopefully mine might have been a bit nicer here, Andy, do we think? Rather than in South Africa, would you rather be over there?
It's been normal autumn weather.
Gents, well, it's so good to have you in the studio, and we've got a great show coming up for everyone at home. I'm sure you're thinking, well, what's this? You might have seen we have been announced as Club of the Year, which we're going to speak about in just a second. Not before, though. We brought you our starting 11 as chosen by Pep Guardiola. It looks like this. Ederson in goal, a back four consisting of Akanji, Diaz, Laporte and Cancelo. A middle three of Rodri, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. De Bruyne captaining the side today. And a forward three of Riyad Mahrez, Jack Grealish, and down the middle, that man, Erling Haaland. As we move to the bench, Stefan Ortega. John Stones returns to the team after a little bit of an injury layoff. Nathan Ake, Ilkay Gundogan, Alvarez, Gomez, Foden, Palmer and Rico Lewis. We'll begin at the back, and I mean three defenders, so I think that's the most important place to start. Akanji, gents. I mean, he really has come into the team and looks like he's been playing with us for seasons. Really, how impressed have you been by him?
Yeah, hugely impressed. The fact that he's just come in, and I think for us as defenders, you kind of appreciate when you're not being noticed, and the fact that he's come in and we're calling his name because we recognise how good he is, but he's not in the headlines. That means he's not making any mistakes.
Yeah.
Because headlines for defenders isn't always a good thing. So in regards to that, he's obviously super intelligent in terms of his game understanding, because he's not just come in and played centre half. He's operating as a right back. So
yes.
He obviously knows the game. Athletically, he can cope with being in wide areas. So a huge talent, and what for the price, one of the bargains of the season.
Bargains of the season. How difficult is that, Andy? Just, for someone like myself to go from playing centre half to right back. Is it a big difference into how you're having to play your game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not an out-and-out right back. I think there's a system there where I think Cancelo pushes high and they almost become a 3.
Yes.
And it's a solid 3. But I mean, before, I didn't have a great knowledge of the player. I was in Sri Lanka at the time. when he signed, and I managed to see a couple of games, and then I've seen the last 2 or 3 games, and like Joleon said, I've been so impressed.
Yes.
Comfy in possession, pace, strength, and game understanding. So, yeah, what a find.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of finds, we're going to be looking at Manchester City's recruitment a little bit later on in the show as well. The centre-half partnership, Diaz and Laporte, Steve, that was one we were so used to seeing for a time, I think, kind of last season, particularly the season before. Injuries have kind of meant it's always been chopping and changing, but we can remember how solid Diaz and Laporte were, particularly when we won the Premier League that year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you play with the centre-half, if you play with somebody regular, you know he's kind of what he's really good at, possibly what he could be susceptible to. I'm not saying that these two have got anything that's they're susceptible at.
Yes.
But at the same time, you know your centre-halves. You know, just say if I was playing with Andy, which I had done, normally I'd let him go and make the headers, and I'd just sweep around him.
Yes.
Obviously, if the ball's coming on my side, it's vice versa. But when you have got that understanding, which you get over time, it's brilliant, and it makes your job so much easier. I mean, obviously, you've got 2 quality players, both got fantastic ability, both very good at pretty much the all-round game. But when you've got the 2 of them together, and not only 2 of them together, but each one understands the other one,
yes,
it makes it that much easier to play with them, but obviously a lot more difficult for the forwards that's playing against them.
I mean, I remember you saying as well that always stands out to me, Joleon, is remember when you were playing with Vincent Kompany that you actually kind of realised my game just has to be about complementing his game.
Yeah, of course. As you said, it was kind of recognising what we needed. I knew what Vinny was good at, better than me at, so it was a case of, well, I needed to be his best partner rather than try to be the best centre-half, and I think that's probably the combination on the pitch where you can't be individual. I think there's certain areas, forwards could potentially be individuals and stuff like that, and midfielders and wide players. But centre-half, you have to play as a pair because you can get exposed at any time. Yeah.
And did you have any, do you remember any centre-half partnerships that you both kind of were like, that they were one of my favourites to play in almost?
With my time at City, I think Gerard Vikens, I had a period of time with Gerard, and it just suited, complemented each other. I went and won things. I was aggressive on the front foot, and he was very, very intelligent and understood the game and played off me a little bit in that sense. So I see with Laporte today, I love his balance.
Yes.
It is a cultured left foot. He can hit a diagonal if the back 4 and the opposition are too narrow. He can expose that, and he threads balls, and he gives us the best balance with his left foot. Everyone else sort of complements each other to a degree, but when he's in, I feel when he's fit, it's him and another, and it might seem with the players that we've got, but for me it's always Laporte when they're all fit and another.
Yeah, absolutely. And he actually, before that injury, was mainly the kind of constant throughout, wasn't he, in central defence. Moving them forward, Bernardo Silva in that game against Anfield for me was our man of the match, tireless. I mean, he just seems to kind of play at a level, Steve, and sustain it, and really does bring such a drive to the team, particularly when the chips are against us as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's a maestro, isn't he? I mean, his ability on the ball is absolutely superb. You see his work rate as well. I mean, it's not very often you get a top player or top players, but you have got them in Man City's team that, they are so gifted, but they're so willing as well to work so hard off the ball and to get it back. So the job that he does is invaluable. But of course, when he gets the ball, we all know what he can do. As you said, I mean, I'll have to agree. I think he was absolutely excellent against Liverpool, and he'd be disappointed to come off there and to be losing the game. But of course, when you've got players like him, and in a game we've talked about complementing each other, when you've got like De Bruyne and sometimes Foden as well, obviously, if he was in the team, the bond that they have, the kind of on the same wavelength of how they go about things and get the job done. Obviously, he's a top player, so I'm looking forward to it. Every time I come here and watch, obviously you look out for all the players, but when you look at me personally, I do look at him.
Yes.
Because his understanding of the game and his movement, even his movement sometimes not even to get the ball, it's to actually make space for somebody else, which people are not aware of. So clever.
He's a very, very selfless player indeed, and his close ball control as well. I think his nickname in training is Bubblegum, they say, because it's like the ball sticks to his foot. You mentioned Foden there. As we know, he's had a brilliant start to the season. He is on the bench, and we've gone for Mahrez, Grealish. What do you think the thinking is there, Joleon?
I think it's with Mahrez in the team. I always seem to believe that Pep thinks you're going to have a lot of possession, final third, and for me, you would say Mahrez 1v1 is probably the most capable at just creating something.
Yes.
So that's when I see him playing in these games, because when it's a larger space like Liverpool and it's more transition, you're probably not going to able to get the best out of Mahrez. So, yeah, it makes sense that he's playing today because I expect us to dominate possession-wise. But, yeah, Phil Foden, listen, for me, he's my favourite player. Him and Bernardo are up there, but I love watching Phil Foden. I just think he plays like a fan. We know he loves his club, but he just plays with so much enthusiasm, and now he's got so much quality to add to that. It's remarkable.
Yeah, he's incredible. But unfortunate for some people, like producer Darryl, who put Foden in the team this week. De Bruyne does start though on the old Fantasy Premier League, so I'm happy. Andy, I'm always interested. I've not had a chance to be on a show with you, but how have you made of City season so far? You know, what have you made of it?
Well, obviously up until last weekend, you know, it was perfect almost, and. You know, the pattern's exactly the same, the intensity, the rotation slightly different at times with Akanji when he's in that right back position, but you know, we dominate the ball in every game we play, and then it's about our end product. And at times last season, perhaps we didn't quite as clinical as we've been this season. Haaland's come in, and those chances that so often we saw balls across in between the goalposts that weren't finished. He's been in there this season, and that's been the key difference for me.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Steve, it'd be reminiscent not to at least have a quick word on Erling Haaland. I mean, do you think you'd be able to stop Erling Haaland? How do you stop Erling Haaland? I've got a great panel to put that question to.
I think dark arts might have to come into play.
VAR, we've got VAR, Steve. Those days are gone.
Yeah, they can still do dark arts even though there's VAR. There's still sly ways about how you can sort of maybe put pay, but you know, with top players, sometimes, you know, with top players like him, and we've played against top players when we played against them, you could feel as though they haven't done anything all game. You've basically just dominated them, and then you just switch off for that split second, or it's a little bit of something which is brilliant from them, and they'll stick it in the bottom corner, stick it in the top corner, it comes off the shin. You know, you get beat 1-0, he's the man that scores it. Obviously, it's for Haaland is this kind of thing, and you come off and you're thinking, you know, he's done nothing all game.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of times this season he hasn't touched the ball a great deal, but he's come away with 3 goals sometimes. So his movement is something which is very, very difficult, because as a defender, especially when the ball's going wide, defenders are very guilty of just looking at the person that's whipping the ball in rather than actually opening the body up. And even if you do open your body up, if he makes that run, which is normally, it could be to the back to the front or to the front to the back, it's so difficult to pick him up. His movement is top quality, and he only needs this much room. And you give him this much room, it's a goal.
Yeah, and he takes that into me. Now, Andy, have you thought of any ways to stop him more, Joleon?
Yeah, world-class players, you don't stop them.
You can't.
Like, you just don't. Like, you try to nullify the supply. If he gets enough chances, he's going to score a goal.
Yes.
Like, so you don't tend to stop players like that. It's near enough impossible because that's why they are regarded as the best.
Yeah.
Like, and if Haaland gets, maybe if he gets 2 chances, but again, that's down to the supply chain, that's not down to him. But if he gets 4 or 5 chances in a game, he's going to score 1 goal.
Yes, yeah.
So then you ain't going to stop him.
Yeah.
So again, you don't stop him, you stop
the supply around it.
Or you try.
Yeah, you try, and that was the kind of the thought behind when we used to play like Barca Champions League. It was like, we need to get, when certain players got the ball, there you mark Messi because they will find him.
Yes, okay.
That was kind of the thought process. It wasn't like, oh, just wait for him to get it and then try and do this. It was like, no, we need to stop that from happening. So it nullifies his touches.
Would that be then what that be kind of practicing in training or highlighting?
Especially with Dani Alves was a huge one. Like his percentage of passes to Messi in the final third was like outrageous. So it was like whoever was the closest player to him, doesn't matter where you was, you stay with him. So like there was times when you felt uncomfortable because you might be outside of the box and the ball's like going into the box, but you was told to stay here.
Yes.
Because the ball's going to find him.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, and again, it's easier now, it's hindsight as well, but when I'm looking at Haaland, I'm thinking, it's not an accident the ball finds him in the box. It's not an accident, so why defenders aren't just saying, where is he? Let me just be next to him, because more often than not, the ball will find him.
Final point on that, and I think it was pointed out, I think, in a couple of games ago, when the defenders then are watching him, and I think this is why suddenly Foden's now on the score sheet more, is because they're so preoccupied. It's now allowing, Foden will pop up in the space because them two are so concerned about what Haaland's doing.
Yeah, and you've got the best managers, you've got the best coaches, analysis teams, you've got everything through the week. Everybody's structuring a way of stopping Haaland.
Yes.
And how they feel it will be the best way. I watch him and I have ideas how I think I could maybe make things more difficult for him. But ultimately, when you get occupied with one individual, And even if you try to double up in the box, like I thought about a 6 dropping onto him and just blocking his runs, and then other people taking areas to try and stop him. But his movement's that good. But immediately then, you've got Foden, you've got Grealish coming off the right, you've got Mahrez coming in. Other players are going to pick things up and happen. So it's going to take care of itself eventually, trying to occupy one player.
Yeah.
Because he's unique in what he does. There's no motive in his head other than scoring goals.
Yes.
When we played United, there was something, I'd love to have the clip, where it was about 75 minutes, and obviously we're well in front, and Martinez has come in short with him on halfway line, and he's left one on him. So he's gone to ground. He got up, and within 100th of a second, he's 8 yards ahead of Martinez now running into the box.
Yeah.
So his only mentality is not to get the player booked, not to try and play the game, slow it down. I just want to score goals. And that appetite and that desire is, I think, what makes him special as well.
Yeah, and that ripples, doesn't it, around the squad, doesn't it? I think that's what, you guys will know, when you've got a player like that, or when someone is in form, I guess you can't help but then feel that in the dressing room as well.
Yeah, but it's not form. Like, he's not done this. It's like, this is what he does.
Yes.
So when people talk about form, that's mean a period of time. His career has been
Goals.
I'm going to score goals.
Yeah.
Speaking to Jack about it, he said he's never met anyone so focused about scoring goals.
Really?
Yeah. Never. And I'm just like, that's a natural thing you're born with. He hasn't just developed that. He was born with that ability to, and that mentality to want.
I think as well the courage. I think you've got to have courage to be a top player. And I think about the games I've seen so far, and listen, you've got to protect yourself, and there's times you might have to buy a foul against somebody. How many times have you seen him, the physio, come on for him? How many times has he stayed down injured, and you thought he's not been caught there? He doesn't. So not only we talk about his attributes and his qualities, he's also a proper leader, and he's a man, and he's got strength mentally as well.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Everything is in there.
Strikers as well, just quickly.
No, of course.
Yes, the team might win, and they'll be like, they'll be sort of saying, I'm delighted, it's 3 points and stuff like that. Believe me, they're not happy. If they haven't scored, they're not happy. Yeah, you've won, and it's great, but they want to score.
Yeah.
I played with Alan Shearer, great player, and we could have won 2-0 or 1-0 or 3-0. If he hasn't scored, his face is up his backside. He's
really?
not happy at all.
Wow.
And he's obviously sort of saying, well done, lads, but he's in the lounge afterwards, maybe he's having a beer, and he's not happy.
Seething, unbelievable, isn't it? Well, listen, aren't we thankfully, he's at Manchester City. If you've just joined in, my name is Kel Spellman. Alongside we've got 3 absolute legends in the form of Steve Howey, Andy Morrison and Joleon Lescott. Now, you might see this beauty has been sat next to us since the start of the show, and because we brought you team news, we can now focus on this because it's been a great week for Manchester City. It said it there, we won Club of the Year at the Ballon d'Or Awards this year. I think this is only the second or third time they've done it, so it's an incredible achievement for the club. I think when you look at kind of across the board, the women's team throughout the academy, 4 Premier Leagues in 5 years, it's pretty hard to top that. And the good news didn't stop there, because we had our highest ever ranked player at the Ballon d'Or Awards, Kevin De Bruyne, number 3 on that list. First of all, phenomenal to have so many players in the list. We had Cancelo at 25th, Bernardo, Foden, Mahrez, Haaland. But Kevin De Bruyne, rightly so, at number 3. I think it was just Mane, and then, of course, the winner Benzema this year, Joleon. You feel that he could maybe push and maybe move up that list slightly?
Yeah, of course he could. But again, strikers will get the more recognition because they score more goals. But in terms of goal involvements, like for what he does, he's probably the most consistent player. The only thing I would say is probably hindered him a little bit was he wasn't fit for the whole season, was he?
Nah.
There was a period when he was out. So that's what separated him from me being Man City's player of the year. I thought he was Bernardo last year, but in regards to his contribution and what he does, ridiculous.
Phenomenal. I think that man there, Gundogan, saying could potentially be a Ballon d'Or winner. You also say Phil Foden. Stephen, you played with one in the form of George Weah, and what was it like playing with him? And does it have that kind of presence again? When you on the team, I guess.
I'm going to sound a bit harsh here, but listen, obviously he was, he'd won the Ballon d'Or. He was absolutely fantastic for AC Milan. It has to be said. I don't think I think his best years were behind him when he came here.
Yeah.
But just the way that he was anyway around the training ground, he just had that something about him.
Yes.
And of course, top players do. It's not being big-headed. it's just known that you're very, very good at what
Yes.
you're doing, and and you could call people for being like, oh, he thinks he's this, he thinks that. No, it's just because I believe in my ability. And when you've got players like Kevin Bruyne, I mean, we've just sort of seen him now, just feeding balls in, and basically sometimes he's got inches to get that ball through, but he's done it so many times. But players like that, I mean, even just on the clips that we've just seen, he seems to have got a really good understanding very, very quickly with Erling. He knows soon as De Bruyne gets the ball, he's on his bike, and he's actually pulling out for him to feed him either to his feet or just in that area. But yeah, I mean, as Joleon said there, I think the thing that hindered him was the fact of he didn't play all season. And it was funny actually, because Andy had mentioned before we came on air about Benzema.
Yes.
You know, if they hadn't won the Champions League, would he have won it? Because obviously, as you sort of said, he was about 2 minutes away really from being out of the competition.
Yeah, I don't think it's blue tinted glasses. I think we could cause an argument here for him to be second or first. I really do.
Yes.
From what he's done, and it's over a period of time. It's not just based on that one season. And we were talking about strikers being selfish. I feel as though he gets more enjoyment out of an assist.
Yeah.
I really do. There's something that you see, he turns around when he's produced something, and he wants people to come to him rather than to the goal scorer, because I've just produced a bit of magic.
Yes.
And he does it. And what he does is he doesn't pick out people. He puts the ball into the best position that it can be in for the striker to find the ball. And as a wide man, a winger, a midfielder, or somebody who creates, put the ball into right. They've got to find it. Don't you find them?
Yes.
And if it goes out and they miss it, it's your fault, not the player. And he does it relentlessly. He'll play a ball into an area, and you know it's up to the striker to get on the end of it. And it's a gift that he has. But he does it very, very early, which doesn't allow people to get set. And the quality from that is his first touch. His appreciation of space comes from because he sets it so early, and then he does it before a centre-half can get set or a full-back can get into the right position. And it's hard, very hard to defend again.
Yeah.
But I would argue that he could have come second in that runner-up.
Yeah, do you know,
I agree.
I think it's a great point, Andy.
I think the Ballon d'Or always comes down to the winners of the Champions League. I think that's probably been more the criteria over recent years. It's like who's won the Champions League, and that selects their best player. I think it will continue to be that. But yeah, if we won that competition, or when we win that competition, I think our best player in that year will win the Ballon d'Or.
So exciting. I think it might be this year. Well, then, of course, the good news didn't stop there as well, because the man between the sticks came third in the Yashin Trophy. That is the awarded for best goalkeepers. Of course, I think second was Alisson, and then going with what you were saying as well there, Joleon Courtois got first place again. Andy, probably if we'd knocked him out of the Champions League, might not have been Courtois.
If.
Yeah.
The difference with him, though, I would say, is he and the way we play is he probably doesn't have to make as many saves as the other goalies.
Yes.
They have to make saves. Well, our system doesn't allow him to make 6-7 saves a game. He could be quite, but in terms of what he does for us, they can't do.
Yes, yeah.
So in terms of his efficiency or their performance for what they're asked to do, I think he's right up there. I think he's as good as them.
Yes.
But in terms of what they're being graded on, and it's most likely saves. Like he's not having to
never
make
going to
that.
get them stats.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think obviously as a goalkeeper, was absolutely fantastic. For me personally, I don't think there's a goalkeeper close to them when it comes to distribution.
Yes, agreed.
It's absolutely scary, and he pings that ball as though he just hits it so sweet. If you're a golf player, sometimes you don't have to try and smash the ball as hard as you can. It's just that timing.
Yes.
And we've seen him time and time again. The ball comes to him. He's so comfortable. I mean, yes, a lot of people were talking about Alisson, about his kick for the Salah goal, but he does it all the time. He does it like, I think goalkeepers call it a sign winder, when they volley it and it just it flies.
Yeah.
But even off the floor, he's dinking balls, he's curling them, he's doing everything.
The Salah goal was half a mistake as well. It was a great kick, but it wasn't like Edison's got real assists.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like real ones where people are through on goal and stuff like that. We've seen it against, was it Spurs last year?
Yeah.
Gundogan. So in regards to what he can do, like the biggest compliment I would say is players don't even close him down anymore, because you know, stay with your man, because he's going to find a spare player. If you close him down, he'll find a spare player. So we got ultimate respect.
Do you think as well it's that kind of thing though, Andy, isn't it? Do you think does he get the appreciation enough for kind of how he, I don't want to say revolutionised goalkeeper. I mean, obviously you know that, you had Neuer doing it, but I've never seen a keeper do what Ederson does, and the fact that he is a keeper that looks like he could play in midfield comfortably. Do you think that gets noticed?
I'd love to have his heart rate. I'd love him to be wired up to see what it's like, because when I'm commentating on the games, I'm on the edge of my seat when balls are going back to him, and I'm worried and panicking. And I've sat behind him, and the opposition have got the press on, and they've got both centre halves pinned. They've got Rodri pinned, and he'll reverse a ball through the press into one of our 10s. And I haven't seen it from above.
Yeah.
So to have that it's a gift. And we were all the modern day keepers, you see them being coached to play this way. Yes, you can take it so far, but then you have to have something special. And he has something that is a peripheral vision and an awareness that is beyond anything that I've ever seen. We've got Bravo in because of his ability to play.
Yes.
But this lad's on a different level altogether.
He really, really is, and he's out there warming up now, as are the boys in blue. Just a final word on this, and we've kind of got players from two generations of the club, so to speak. And Steve, I think they officially give the Club of the Year for the most nominations. So this year we had 7 in the Ballon d'Or list. Lucy Bronze as well, got 10th in the Women's Ballon d'Or. So could you ever have envisioned that, that we would be sitting here being Club of the Year with 7 of our players, deemed 7 of the best in the world?
No, if I'm being brutally honest, or being in the kind of where we are now. It was a far cry. I mean, when I first signed, obviously Andy was before me as well. I mean, even just facilities-wise, not great. I mean, I've done this show and we've done it from where the lads train. I mean, the pitches, oh my lord. I mean, it's just. I was talking to Trevor Sinclair about it, and it's one of them. The facilities and the pitches is one of them where you'd basically want to be first in and last away.
Yeah.
Whereas where we were initially, initially it was Platt Lane and then it was Carrington. The facilities weren't great, but I knew there was something special going to happen when I was here under Kevin, because Kevin Keegan had that, which he did at Newcastle, and we knew there could be like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Of course, ultimately, when Kevin left, there was a few other things that happened, but when the new owners have come in, I mean, they've obviously transformed the club completely. Everything about this club now is absolutely fantastic, and really it's a blueprint for other clubs.
Yes.
And I know you could, maybe Liverpool fans might say this, and Man United fans might say that, and Tottenham fans and Chelsea fans, whatever. The blueprint of how to run a club and look after, the infrastructure outside of the football club,
yes.
Just everything that goes with the foundation and everything else is absolutely superb.
Yeah, and Joleon, a final word on that, because I know you're very much intrinsically linked with the club and work with the club, and I can say as well, it is a joy as a fan to see that from top to bottom, across the board, they do seem to lead the way and they leave no stone unturned. The detail and the quality and the level at which they operate it's a force.
Yeah, and again, I'm not surprised, because this was documented to us when I met the chairman before arriving, and this was happening, and it was like, oh, okay, sounds all right, that, but it was like, no, we're going to build this and it's going to look like this, and it was like set in stone the time frame. So how this club has progressed,
wow.
Now seeing it after being told before it was happening is crazy. But yeah, I probably slightly disagree with Steve in terms of, I don't think teams and clubs can catch up. I think the infrastructure is so big. Like, they look at the on-field success, and that may be you can catch up there, but in terms of the City group, I don't think teams can catch up.
Nah,
I just think we're so far ahead.
In a league of our own, I think,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I can speak for all Manchester City fans when I can say to the ownership and to all the management and everyone that kind of is involved in the running of the club, thank you, because I think it's beyond our wildest dreams. And what a beautiful kind of recognition of that there in our Ballon d'Or award. So congratulations to everyone involved with Manchester City. Right, there was an infamous celebration spawn on this day, I think 11 years ago, or maybe a day either side. It made a magical appearance as well at the derby. Yep.
Oh,
The Poznan, and we've got a very special documentary charting the Poznan and its history coming to City Plus. Check this out.
If there's one group of fans who can use football for having a laugh and being slightly irreverent, it's Manchester City fans. We played Poznan in the Europa League.
They just sort of took over the atmosphere in the ground. There was that many of them.
All of the away fans just turned around and started jumping backwards.
it just sort of took off from there, and then we decided, I think every time we scored a goal, we'd do a Poznan.
You know, it was at a time where, even though we were starting to do well, as a fan base, we still didn't take it ourselves very seriously at the time. The big one that season was definitely the FA Cup semi-final.
Me and my brother claim that we started the Poznan at Wembley.
We just turned around and did a Poznan, which again was a City thing to do.
It's just, if you're a City fan, you just get it. It's just part of City fandom, and the Poznan just became a part of that.
The City fans doing the Poznan, and this stand is shaking.
I mean, Joleon, we were just saw a little teaser there for a new Poznan documentary. You were playing in that game. Do you remember it?
Yeah, now when I see the footage and that, yeah, it's mad. When we used to see that,
It's such a great spectacle, isn't it?
yeah, it is. What did we get it from when we played them?
Yes, yeah.
And it was just like seeing that, because that was an impressive stadium, to be fair. I think it was built for the Euros, but then when it come back here, oh my God. Special.
And I think what was great now is now it only just comes out in very special occasions. I mean, we used to love it all the time, whereas now, you know, the fans are happy and you know we've done well if the Poznan comes out. If you've just tuned in, welcome along to Matchday Live. My name is Kel Spellman, alongside me Joleon Lescott, Andy Morrison and Steve Howey. We have brought you the Manchester City team news. We take on Brighton and the omens don't look good for Brighton. They've only won once in their last 10 games against Manchester City. But we can see, of course, what the new manager has chosen. It's all change at Brighton. Let's take a look at their starting 11 then. We've got Sanchez in goal, then we've got Veltman, Dunk, Webster and March, McAllister, Caicedo, Trossard, Gross, Lallana comes into the team and Danny Welbeck. As we move to the bench, we've got Lamperty, Colwell, Sarmiento and Cisco, Unday, Steele, Gilmore, Van Heck and Estopinen, I think. Forgive me the pronunciation on that final one. So close. There's always one that gets me. Joleon, new manager. Obviously, that's always stuff. What have you made of this kind of new look Brighton team? Well, not new look, but new team under the new manager.
I think a compliment would be that it's not too dissimilar to what Graham Potter created. I think they looked the same in terms of how they want to play, and that makes sense in terms of when you're recruiting managers and coaches. Now you try to get him to a coach that plays a similar way to the group of players that you have. Yes. Because then he just disrupts too much stuff. But yeah, obviously, unluckily they didn't get the result we all needed them to get at Anfield. But a great performance, and yeah, you probably would say there was hard done by. Was it Forest? I think they drew. So. Listen, they're on the right track, and they're not deemed as relegation favourites or in a relegation fight, so that is probably a compliment for them as well.
And yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you've done it, you know, the managers come over from Italy. How difficult is it to come from a different, you know, from one country and then manage in another country that is obviously going to be so different, just kind of in where you're living, but then of the league itself and the teams, you know? I
think he'll be well versed on what the Premier League is and the teams, and you know, I'm sure a younger manager, you know, would have an eye aspirations to manage in the English Premier League. And what's impressed me about him is he's come across and he's been himself. Now you want to make an impression when you first come in, and he's totally different to Graham Potter, who was very passive, very thoughtful on the sidelines. He's very animated. He's aggressive in his movements. You know, in the last game, he was, you know, going toe-to-toe with the manager, nose-to-nose. They were pulled apart. So he's not coming across looking to protect his reputation. He's wanted to come in and make an impression. This is who I am. This is how I do things. You know, Joleon just said about the structure of the team being similar, and you know, you wouldn't want to change it too much because it's very, very effective in what they've done under Potter. He was, for me, one of the managers I always looked at and loved the way they played, because most teams come here to try to stop City. He looked at ways where on the turnover of possession, he was one of the managers who they came back through the thirds, back out the way to start their game rather than trying to score on the first time. And I was so impressed with him. And I did say I thought he would go on. Yes. And only time will tell. Yes. You know, and only results will tell, you know, how good the new manager is.
I mean, they've been winless, Stephen, in their last 3 away games. But actually, you know, that probably isn't a fair telling of like the football that they're playing, because, you know, I think actually when you look at the how many shots they've had over these last few games, how many shots on target. You know, they're kind of even more attacking than they were before. So I guess you feel like that could just be a matter of time. When that clicks, then they could be well on the way.
Yeah, I think they're unfortunate. I think the Nottingham Forest game was an example, because they've had so many shots on target but just not managed to find the back of the net. I watched them first game of the season when they played Man United, and I was very, very impressed with them. You know, Trossard, Kroos, caused them all kind of problems. Welbeck was excellent that day as well. You know, big, strong, more than happy to run the channels. And then we've seen them against Liverpool. I mean, they caused Liverpool all kinds of problems, really. And I think, you know, fair enough, yes, they get a 3-3 draw, but really they should have been out of sight, because when they were 2-0 up, they still had chances, because they were cutting Liverpool wide open. There could have been 3 or 4 at half time. Yeah. You know, and so they have got top quality players. As I said, that was, you know, with Graham Potter, obviously that was the first game for the new manager at Liverpool. But a team, for me, I think, play the right way, want to play the right way. And as Andy said, you know, they're a team that'll probably come here and they'll not be frightened to actually go forward, you know, because otherwise we do find a lot of teams that'll come to the Etihad and just be like, you know, the Mourinho park the bus type scenario. Yeah. I don't think these will. I think they'll try and play, you know, good attacking football. Obviously, when they haven't got the ball, they'll want to be nice and compact, but they'll want to attack, and because they'll feel as though they've got the players that can do damage.
Speaking of them players, then who are the players looking at the starting 11 that you think could cause us problems today, and how do you think they'll go about it?
Lallana, obviously quality. I don't know if he can manage the transition as much, but Welbeck for me. I know he probably doesn't score as many goals as you would associate with strikers, but how important he is to that team. I don't think there's a more important player. The Man United game, Liverpool, he was involved in all their goals, if not a couple, but his hold-up play, his understanding, physically he can cope. So yeah, I'm scared for him, especially when he likes to operate in big spaces as well. So if he's isolated, he's okay with that, and he's able to transition and get the team up the pitch. So yeah, he's one I'll be wary of.
Oh, you, Andy?
Looking at the team, they're very, very dangerous on set plays, and they've scored against us on other occasions. I think they've had 3 headers actually. They might have scored against us over the years. In dunk, they're one of the biggest centre-halves in the league. Webster, I really like Webster. I think he could play in a top 4 team. He's so comfy in possession of the ball, he's composed, and he's a physical specimen. So them 3 on our set plays, and with the delivery from whoever it is, Trossard or whether it's Lallana, we've got to be at the top. They've got to get into the final third, first of all, to get a set play. Yes. But on those set plays, they're going to be key today for me. We've got to defend them correctly.
Guess as well, what's probably going to help us, Steve, and is going to bring us into our next talking point, is we're coming off the back of a loss. And as we know, a Pep Guardiola team coming off the back of a loss usually they're a force to behold. I think I've got a great stat here that kind of says, I think since a loss we've won in the next game 25 of our next games, we've drawn 3 and only lost 2. So that's a real kind of, it's mentality monsters, I guess, in a way, that.
It is, yeah. I mean, obviously the manager wouldn't have been happy with the fact that they lost against Liverpool. We all know what Liverpool can be like, though. You know, we've seen them on occasions where they've been under par, and then we've seen them where they've been excellent and been up for the game, which they were against City. But yeah, of course, I think for a lot of teams, particularly the top teams, if you get beat, and it's still it's a shock loss against Liverpool for me still, because, you know, Liverpool haven't started the season very, very well. But of course, you know, teams do up the games against Manchester City. But it is a case that the manager have been drilling into them this week, because they have had a few days extra sort of training rather than a quick turnaround. Sometimes for players, you'd rather get another game pretty quickly just to get it out of your system and then to carry on again. Sometimes it's nice maybe just to have those extra couple of days to have a proper think about, you know, what went wrong, what can we do to improve. So of course you'll be drilling into them, but the players themselves know they have to get back on winning ways, and this is a perfect opportunity for them to do that.
We saw there, Joleon, and you know it was a mistake. Was there anything else in the game? Because it felt a bit of a strange game anyway. I think, you know, we've seen some right back and forth, as we know, whereas this one, it felt a little bit more cagey. Were there any other parts you think that kind of cost us the defeat at Anfield? It's so...
I'd say cost us, but again, I didn't expect it to be what we've come accustomed to seeing, because it's 2 of the best teams over the last 4 or 5 seasons, and I think it's probably the only team where they both tweak a lot. They don't normally tweak too much when they're going into any other game, but that is like they must have an utmost respect for each other to say, well, we need to change that. And we've seen like Kevin operating on the right, which we're not going to see that today. You know what I mean? So I think them things play into each other's minds in terms of the strategy that the managers and the coaches use, but them fine margins, them games will always be defined by fine margins.
Yeah, and it was fine margins, and Cancelo has been revolutionary in the fullback role, as we know. So it's a tough one to see, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, it is. I mean, how that's evolved to actually be that he is that last man. But I mean, it's a poor decision. He's made the wrong decision first and foremost. But if we were able to see it again, the fine detail is that he's not a centre half, so he's not actually worked Salah back towards the halfway line, offside. He's actually stood static, and he's allowed. If you look at it, if we can get it up,
yeah.
There's 20 yards to the halfway line. Now a clever centre half is going to work him offside. So then when the playment moves, there's movement. But if we watch it there now, see, he's already stuck. So we stopped it there then. He should have been working him in the phase of play before, when it's in the keeper's hands.
To move him
It
up.
would have given something to think about, but he got planted and then he's made a poor decision. But before the poor decision, there's just here now, look where he is now. He's not worked him in any way. So then that's a poor decision to go in there then. You just stand up, you've got recovering players, and he sold himself.
Yeah.
But I still think, I'm not sure how it ended up one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something the manager would look at going forward, to leave it in that situation, that period in the game, to be exposed one-on-one.
How have you found yourself there? Yeah.
I think even if it's one-on-one, you would have thought a player of his kind of knowledge of the game, you do not take that chance to try and win the ball.
Yes.
Just stay behind him. Fair enough, you mightn't have worked.
He is though, Steve. I think he wants to go and win balls. He's on the front foot. The amount of times defending the far post and that where his position is not quite right. So it's risk and reward, and we'll always get the other side of it, which is where we get that. But the downside is them moments. There's a lot of times there's defensively wrong decisions in the final moments with Cancelo, and they'll know that. That's why I'm saying I'm not sure why he was left. He was eventually the one in the one-on-one.
We did have the ball in the back of the net, Stephen. I did just want to kind of ask you and say, what did you make of obviously the VAR decision?
I'll probably get criticised for this, but I think it's a foul.
Yeah.
It's a foul by Haaland. I can understand what Bernardo Silva was saying, and I think Anthony Taylor, for me, who I think is an excellent referee, he was letting things go, because he was wanting players to take responsibility. If it's a foul, it's a foul, but ultimately I want you to get up, let's just play.
Yes.
And I think that's a good thing for the game, because we see too many players going down too easily and referees blown, where he was just letting it play on. But I think if you'd seen the clip, he has got a pull on him. Listen, do I feel as though Fabinho goes down a bit too easy?
Yeah.
I think he's going down anyway without really as much as the pull.
Yeah.
But when a referee goes and looks at the screen, he sees what we call the triangle of the shirt.
Yes.
It's a foul.
But then I guess the argument is, like, and as Bernardo said, I think it is, though, it just felt a little bit, I think from a fan's perspective, that there'd been fouls like that kind of happening, but when it resulted in
But it doesn't I think that's it. It results in a goal.
Okay.
Because I think there was a foul on Salah, wasn't there, in the first half, when he's been like upended really, and Anthony Taylor's let that go, and you're seeing Klopp lose the plot on the sideline. I mean, obviously he lost it again later on, but that's the referee just trying to let the game go. He was wrong on that one as well. But as I said, I think Fabinho makes the when the referee looks at it in real time, and as the game's going, he's thinking he's just made the most of that.
Yes.
But obviously when he goes to the, I mean, you know yourself, when the referees go to the screen, forget about it. It's a change in decision.
Yeah, again, in terms of these decision making, the ref, he was consistent. He didn't give many of them, like the banana in the corner when Klopp gets sent off to foul.
Yeah.
But he didn't give it. But because that results in a goal, he then has the opportunity to go and look at it again. So that's why he's actually give it. And for me, I think if that's in the box, someone's doing that to Haaland in the box, we want a penalty.
No, I agree. No, that's
you know
the. And I don't think I ever said that. Gosh, that'd have been the other way round.
I was watching a game, obviously, over in Cape Town, and everyone was celebrating. I was like, "That's a foul." That.
Yeah.
I could see that was a foul, and his momentum, Fabinho's momentum was he was going down, but it's hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Well, listen, hopefully we'll be putting that right. Brighton are the opposition today. We've got, I think, just around 15 minutes till kick-off. On commentary today, we, of course, have got Alistair Mann, and alongside him is Mr. Sean Goater. We can now go to them pitch side to get their thoughts ahead of the game.
Well, welcome to pitch side. We're only a few minutes away from kick-off. Alongside me on commentary duty today is the one and only Sean Gota. Sean, we've had a few minutes to digest the team information. 3 changes. What do you make of it?
Well, yeah, we've got Mahrez has come in alongside and Grealish as well. The most interesting thing is whether or not we play. I think we went into a back 3. We went into a back 3 last time, and this time we'll be going to that same back 3. We had Cancelo pushed up on the right-hand side. I think Akanji will play right back, so I think there'll be some changes there. I think the boys, they adapt to whatever Pep's asking anyway.
A quick thought about Liverpool, first defeat of the season. What do you make of that performance, and what was it about that game that didn't quite happen, you think, for City?
Yeah, it's weird because I actually thought we're going there with good form. Yes, the previous game we did have a man, we were playing 10 men, we got through that result, but I thought we were still going there generally in good form. And I thought, right, this is the game where we could really give them a good hide. And for whatever reason, whether it becomes something that's conscious within the players, we just didn't perform in the final third the way we normally do. I also think it may have been a little bit down to, again, playing with a bit of a wing back, with Mahrez on the right hand side, playing for wing back. Normally we have our normal system as in the wide player. We have a 8 on that side as well. So sometimes you see that we can make that run towards the byline, and then the fullback would normally support behind. With a wing back, well, once your wing back is up high as a winger, the supporting system is a lot further back because it's one of your centre backs. So I think that little adjustment there stopped us from being able to sustain attacks in the final third.
It's interesting that I think Pep said it himself, he learns more about his teams when they lose. City's response is normally positive. What do you expect today?
Yes, I expect a positive result, positive performance. Again, I think we know Brighton in terms of a team, they'll be up for this. It's how we adapt when we're out of possession, because Brighton will see this as a free hit. They know they're not prolific in the final third, but if I'm a Brighton player, I want to come here and spoil the party and say, yeah, this is what we're about. So in transition, being able to win that ball back quickly, and if we're not able to win it back quickly, then we defend as compact as a unit until we win it, and then go and create chances again.
I'm not going to put you on the spot for a prediction, but Brighton do seem to play a sort of very open game. I can't imagine they'll park the bus. Are you expecting this to be a football contest?
Yes, it is. It's very much going to be a chess game, and you know, I think a lot of their DNA essentially, I think they've looked at City and City style, and a lot of what they do or how they want to play I think has come from how City are. So, you know, if you're a football lover, this is a game that you'll love from the point of it's 2 footballing teams that are trying to dominate the ball and create opportunities.
Okay, well, myself and Sean, we bring you the commentary. Remember to download the app, and we'll bring you every kick, every header, and hopefully every goal. Back to the studio.
Alistair, man, thank you so much. And you heard the man. See what I did there? Yeah, moving on. Manchester City app is what you need to download to get that commentary. And, of course, that's where you can get City. Plus, you can check out that Poznan documentary we trailed before that. What you can also get on there is Together Champions Again. And I'm going to show you a clip that has inspired this chat I've wanted to have that looks at our recruitment and ideology behind the recruitment here at Manchester City, because it does seem to feel now any player that seems to come in settles very quickly. And our young players seem to be able to exist around the first team. And when you see young Rico Lewis come on in the Champions League at 17 years old, he doesn't look out of place. I wanted to get the thoughts from our panel today. But first, take a little look at this clip from Together Champions Again. And this is Cheeky and Omar Barrera talking about that.
You know, I'm a sporting director. I'm the guy that was to keep safe the philosophy of the team. So for that, we have to hire the best managers we can. Now we have the best in the world for that. And then with the manager is to build a team that has everything. We work to sell players or to buy players.
Vale, i aquest any també el que hem fet és treballar molt les renovacions. Hem fet...
vale. Sí.
Més de 10, no? Sí, hem fet la de Cancelo, a Stones, a l'Ederson, Ruben, Dinho, Zach, Delap i Maquetí, que és l'última, i Palmer, que van fer a l'estiu. Que al final aquí és mantenir el talent, mantenir aquest equilibri. No, i sabem que quan guanyes també tens una pressió dels jugadors i dels agents que sempre estan demanant més salaris, no? Sí,
quan més
ho has d'aguantar, no? És aquest equilibri entre mantenir els jugadors perquè estan rendint al camp, però hem de mantenir una estructura i una estabilitat.
Molt bé. Tot això que m'estàs ensenyant és fantàstic, perquè al final aquesta sensació, aquesta de que nosaltres estem al top a tot, perquè la percepció de la gent és que estem al top a tot, en salaris, en tot, en traspassos, en net spend i tal, i resulta que no estem liderant cap llista.
Totalment. I estem guanyant i estem continuant, estem fent un futbol espectacular.
No ens podem dormir, però a veure.
Gents, it's fascinating because, you know, 1 or 2 seasons you go, all right, maybe you get a little bit lucky, but to do it consistently, now what we've seen, one, the success on the pitch, but off the pitch, with the academy, it's all thought out, isn't it? And I think it's all in the details, Joleon.
Oh, yeah. Like, even the academy, like, credit, Pep deserves utmost credit and plaudits, but the setup of the current academy was done before he arrived. So it wasn't like, oh, Pep's come and now the academy teams are playing the way the first team played. Like, that was thought out. So they knew Phil Foden had the potential to kind of be the player he's become and to go on to great things. So it was like, well, how do we create a system in place that allows our graduates to come through and play? Because, like, we see Nico and stuff, and it's like, the situations he's going to be in for our senior team, he's been in consistently through all the age groups because they dominate. So there's no point coming into the seniors and being like, well, this is the first time I'm experiencing the ball in this scenario or having to defend or having to attack this way. No, it's like, oh, wow, this is all I'm used to. Cole Palmer, it's all he's used to in terms of being in the final third, getting the ball in transition or whatever it may be. So the thought process between it all is crazy.
And then looking at when we're making signings that from overseas or from different teams, I mean, you look at the way Akanji's come into the squad, or and I think they say it sometimes takes a player a season to settle under Pep because of the system, but Grealish, Gundogan, Cancelo, I can't remember a signing that Cheeky's made in the last 6 years where I've gone, that one felt like a bit of an odd one. What are the things you think that City are doing that enable these players to come in and hit the ground running and be so comfortable?
Well, I think the recruitment is obviously based around players that are able to do and technically good enough to do what's wanted. But I think there's been development in every one of them. I still think there's another level that they can go to. They're not the finished product. And the players that have come in and it's taken a season or so, Akanji's an exception because he's just come in like he's been here. Yeah. Where we've just seen how, as you said, Cancelo and Grealish, how they've improved after that feeling of understanding the way that City play. So obviously it's players that they see there's still growth in them when they come in, that we can still develop them on and become assets to the club as well, not just finished product. But I've seen the young lads, Rico, coming on in the games, and I made my debut at 17 at Villa, when we were lost 5-2, and all I did was run around and had no idea what was going on really. Where it's a great opportunity to come into a team that are going to dominate the ball. You're not going to be asked questions of you going the other way. You're not going to be defending. You're not going to be asked questions at the far post or what you're actually as a defender. You're going to be, how are you as a footballer? Yeah. And as Joleon just said, they developed that for probably the best part of 7-8 years to get to that point where they get onto the pitch. So they know the patterns, they know the systems, they know the rotations. So as a defender, he's not going to. I'll be interested to see when he is actually asked questions of him.
But again, he probably won't be able to have to because he hasn't had to. Like, could all these players play for every Premier League team? No, probably not.
I agree with that totally.
It doesn't work like that. And the game, Man City aren't creating players to play in the Premier League. They're creating players to play for Man City.
Yes.
So we only have to manufacture that. Yes. We only have to worry about what are our right backs required to do, what are our strikers required to do, and develop them strengths. And rather, his weaknesses are going to be his weaknesses for everyone, but it's only a strength for us. Yes. We're only worried about that because this is how we develop our players.
And then if we're looking at that recruitment, one from looking at the, looking when we're trying to sign kids maybe to come to the academy, but then looking abroad, Steve, Cheeky's our director of football. Is it his eye ultimately that is kind of finding these players? Is it, you know, or is there also, I don't know, is he breaking it down into all these elements and he'll find the players? You know,
I think it's a bit of both. I think he will have to break all the elements down. He will. It is his keen eye. You know, it's a talent. You know, to spot something which other people don't see. You know, because there's been players that scouts have looked at or people have gone across to look at them and just gone no, and then people like Kiki's come in and looked at that player and just gone, I can see something there. You know, you need a player that you can look at and think he's intelligent, he's going to learn. And then the saying is, you know, every day is a school day. So even like to Kevin De Bruyne and Gundogan, they're learning every day.
Yes.
You know, they never, you know, stand still. So of course to bring in these players to come in, which they have done under Pep, and they seem to hit the ground running. It's no coincidence, really.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just drilled into them as soon as they get there. And of course, I mean, I can remember years ago, the very first manager that I'd heard of that did all of this kind of stuff was Arsene Wenger. Everything was geared around what's he like off the pitch, what's his family like, what's his social life like, you know, what's he like in the dressing room, what's he like when the team lose, what's he like when the team win. Everything needs to be looked at, and that's even before they look at the person and his ability.
Yes, yeah.
But of course, we've got players that's come in and they just look so comfortable. That's because from day one, this is the system we play, you know. And then, like Andy said, you know, I made my debut at 17 as well, believe it or not, as a centre forward, and it was against Man United.
No way.
And I can remember just standing there thinking, you know, we didn't have any kind of way of playing. No. You were basically just running around, and that was just trying to stop goals. But obviously the ethos and just the thought process, everything, the detail that goes into these players getting out on the park every Saturday or midweek or European games, everything is thought out specifically for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two of the lads you saw there, Cheeky and Omar, are key to that, and then you've got Ferran Soriano as well.
Cheeky played for Spain and Barcelona, so he's not just a guy that just may know about football. He's played at the highest level and played with Pep, so his IQ and his ability to spot players we shouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah, and they built that infrastructure as well. And we can actually hear now from one of your old teammates.
Yeah.
And speaking of kind of young Rico Lewis as well, and he knows a little bit about the opposition manager. It is a fan favourite, a bruising left back, an incredible free kick taker, Alexander Kolarov. We managed to catch up with him earlier in the week, and he started talking about Cancelo, then of course his advice for maybe young Rico Lewis and Wilson Esbrand, of course the left back as well, and taking a look at Brighton's manager.
From the first day was quite clear that he's going to make a lot of success in Manchester City, because he's number one. He's increasing the level of the play, increasing the players, and then he's putting the players in another level. You can see that during the years, and then the players who we signed during the years, they were great. With him, they become just the top level. Yeah, he's great. He can play on the right and the left, and I think he's even more dangerous when he plays on the left, because he can go inside, he can go outside. He has great vision of the play. He's like midfielder who is playing on the side, and not just him, even the other. But I think he suits a lot to Pep's style. Advice just to watch other players, to listen what the coach is telling to them, to be focused on the job. And the thing is, they can just improve, just having training with the first team who is winning the Premier League last couple of years. So they just because they are in the first team, that's saying that they have good mental abilities to play in that kind of team. I know him personally. He's I call him Small Pep. He's you will see. I think he's going to do the great thing in the Premier League. I played against his team in Italy. He's very difficult to play against his teams. I'm quite sure that he's going to do the great things in the Premier League.
It worked, and
We were getting well into there about Alexander Kolarov, weren't we? Looking at our teams. Quick word on Kolarov, Joleon.
Yeah, he looked as happy as ever. Happy as ever. But no, he's one of the best foreign players, if not the best I ever played with. So funny. He wanted to get into the culture of Manchester and of the Premier League, but like we've got to remember at that time he was going to Real Madrid and he decided to come here. You know what I mean? So yeah, deserves a huge amount of credit for that. But what a guy!
What a guy! Well, listen, the boys are taking to the pitch, so we're going to hand over to Alistair Mann. Quick predictions, Andy.
4-1.
Love that.
3-0.
3-0.
I've got 4-0.
We love that in the studio. Right, let's get over to Alistair Mann and Sean Goetz for commentary on the City app. We'll be back at half-time. Come on, City.
You learn a great deal about a team after they lose a match, and this City side have demonstrated for many years that they respond in the best possible manner. The Blues lost 8 times.